Hi folks, today I'm going to be smoking or hot smoking some salmon. And okay, nice piece of salmon, around about £2, and I have to say it's not the fancy, but it's kind of reasonable fish, and it's nice and fresh. And we're going to smoke it outside on the Traeger today, and I like using the Traeger for it, but we'll come to that a little later. To put it into a recipe, we've got to think what to do with it. Well, one of my favourite ways of doing it is to actually make salmon fish cakes, and they really are tasty. And I have to say, I'm a bit of a cheat, and I take it from this here, which is an old nickname book. Now, I went on this course way back in, it seems like way back now, it doesn't seem to me to be, but it is way back. About 2006 this book was out, so it must have been very close to them when I went on his course. It was great, I really enjoyed it. The man was very funny, very amusing, and he had great assistance, and can recommend anything that he does. The only thing I would say about his stuff is, he's really not fond of salt in this particular book. Now, I'm fond of a little bit more salt. And here we are, we're living in Texas. It's pretty hot a lot of the time, so a little extra salt, I think probably not too bad. So, in here, we'll find the recipe. I've got to decide what to put with it. I've got two options. So I'll make the fish cakes up, and I'll explain how to do that in a little while. But then we have to decide what to go with it. Kind of like the idea that he uses in here for another recipe, which is beetroot. And the beetroot is turned into a sort of a marmalade kind of idea. It's just reduced down with some sugar and vinegar, and it's grated first, and that's really tasty. But the other option would be to do as he suggests in here, which would be with a salsa. Now, salsa is a rather good idea. Anyway, onwards we go. I've been sorting the fish out, and I've done that for the last 3 hours, something like that. And what I do is brine it. Very simple brine. It's a sugar, water, salt mixture. Now what I tend to use is about 8 cups of water, about a cup of sugar, and just a little less of the salt. I'm round about 3/4 of a cup, something like that. In that goes, it sits in the fridge, as I've said, about 3 hours here, and now I'm just going to get it out. What we have to do from that point on is simply dry the fish a little. Not too much, but to dry it off so it gets a kind of slight sticky feel to it. Now, I think if you look in the books, they call it a pedicle. And I think the idea behind that is this slightly sticky surface that you've developed on top of the fish, when you come to smoke it, sucks in the smoke and it covers the top of it, which I have to say, whether that's true or not, I don't know, but it works really well. So right now, I'm going to get the fish out of its brine over here. So it's been sitting in the brine, as I say, 3 hours, and it takes a little bit of colour. But what you've got to be careful is that you don't leave too much of the salt and brine on it. So very, very quick, not too much, but a little quick rinse in water like that. And that's quite enough, I think. Some people might do it a bit longer than that, but I'm happy with that. So what we do then is we take a bit of tissue, so I don't want to be left with too much water to get rid of. Just get a little dry, and particularly on the bottom side, because I'm going to rest it on something just now. Now we'll take it over to the area I'm going to rest it on. Okay, so we'll take that over. I'll leave that quite wet on top. It will evaporate. Remember, we're living in a nice warm place. Doesn't take too long to dry. So, now we're outside. Here's the salmon. Nice and sticky to the touch. We're going to put it into the Traeger. I've set the temperature to the smoke one, which is the lowest, which is 80, but because it's nice and hot already out here, it's about 90 already, it adds it onto it. That doesn't seem to be a problem when it comes to smoking the fish. So in we pop the fish. Now put it slightly to this end, because that end is a little smokier than the other. Let's pop that down. Oh, it's hot out here though. I'll do a little slurp in between this operation. You know what, this is quite cheap, but it's pretty good. Right, back to this. Need to put a temperature probe in it. Bang it in the middle, like you should do. Stick everything inside. Shut the lid. Now basically what we're going to do is just leave this. It'll probably, at this temperature, probably be a couple of hours. I want it to get to about 135, 140, just to make sure it's nicely cooked but not overcooked. You want it nice and moist still inside. And then we're going to mix it up and make the fish cakes, which should be tasty. Whew. It's hot out there. Oh my goodness. It's a great piece of salmon though. So here we are, back in the kitchen. And oh my goodness, it is hot. Time for some refreshment before we start anything else. So actually we've moved on to cocktails now, and this is very pleasant. A little light mojito. It really goes down well while you're slaving in the kitchen. But what I'm going to do next is I'll be able to flip it. I'll take the skin off. I'm going to clean the back off. I don't like the brown meat that's on the back. And we'll weigh it, and then weigh an equal amount of potatoes. Finish it off. Then we're going to basically cool it down and then get ready to shallow fry. So I think the next thing we're going to do is get somebody to test it, because you never know what you've got here, do you, till you actually really do it. So hopefully Helen is going to be available. Hello.
This is the testing area.
This is a testing area, and this end is worth a test, so help yourself.
Looks rather a nice colour. Oh, it's a nice texture.
All right. Can use fingers. How does it taste?
Excellent.
What do you mean by excellent?
Would you like some? It's smoky. It's got quite a nice sticky texture on the outside. A nice, what did you call it? Pedicle. How much did you need?
Well, yeah, I'm just wondering.
For the fish cakes?
That's quite nice.
It's still nice, and it's not dry at all.
It is not dry, is it? You don't want it to be dry. But we mustn't stop eating. We must stop eating it because
I'm going now.
So, thank you for your opinion. I'll get on now. So, that is tasty actually. It really is a nice smoke on there. Not too heavy. You know, I like to use oak if I can get oak. I'm just peeling the skin off. But I couldn't get oak today, and I've used hickory. A lot of people like to use a light wood for smoking fish, but you know what? When you're doing things like fish cakes, you're going to be mixing it with the potato. If you mix it with the potato, you're going to lose some of that smoke. So, better if you can use a slightly stronger smoke. What I'm doing is just taking off a little bit of this brown. It's a bit bitter. I mean, it's not hugely bitter, and a lot of people leave it on, but you know me, I think it doesn't look quite as nice, which is a bit silly, isn't it, really? And so there we go. That's clean enough, really, to go in now. I'm going to break it up, which is such a shame, isn't it, for a nice piece of salmon. Now, of course, if you weren't doing this, if you're just serving it, you could just serve it to people as a nice piece of fish. But, you know, we're going to actually mix it. So it's one of my son's favourites. Now I've got to measure this. I like to weigh in ounces. We're just going to break it into biggish chunks. It's got to cool off before we can put it all together. These are the big chunks going in. Whoa, a little on the warm side of fingers. Definitely. Yeah, so 13, we're gonna have probably a little bit less than quite a bit less than we started off with. I would say 20 odd ounces, which is kind of what happens normally. By the time you scrape off stuff, you take the skin off, and you end up with quite a little bit less. Okay, so I would like to have another drink, but my fingers are really at the moment. So I'm going to tidy up. I'm going to add the potato to the potato. Let's have a quick rinse because I can't really handle anything else. So 2 seconds at the tap. A bit of soap and water. There we go. as usual, left my towel somewhere. Oh, my careful assistant has thrown it to me out the back, so there we go. Right, okay, so I've got about 22 ounces, so let's put about the same amount of potato in here. So that's going to make us, let me do my maths, oh, I'm not very good at maths, hopefully up to 44, 38. Oh. You know, I'm not far off with the potato really, it's amazing that. Look at that, I'm hardly going to have any left. There we go, about 45, which gives us a chance to test potatoes. To that, I'm going to add these green onions, spring onions, scallions, whatever you want to call them, and funny long things, onions, in here. And that gives a bit of a bite. Yeah. Now, how much I put in? Well, I don't really know. It's what you feel like. To that also, a bit of a squeeze of lemon. And just trying to stop the pips going in. It's tasty when you make it. I think that's probably enough. Okay, now I'm going to mix these all together by hand. I'm going to put my hands in, mix it all up. Now those chunks of fish will break down some more and you'll end up with quite a sticky mess, but it's a rather tasty one. After that we'll form up the shapes, put them into the fridge, cool them down until they are really cool, otherwise if you don't they'll break up when you try and lightly fry them. And to that, a little dusting of flour, fry them off, probably 3 to 4 minutes each side. Try not to burn them, which I often do. Serve them up. Today we're going to do it with a salsa, so we'll see you then. Alright, bye for now. Enjoy the rest of our evening. So guys, out.